edition of Education Nightly News. We'll take a look into a disability that, according to Australian Disability Clearinghouse on Education and Training, affects 1 in 6 Australians. The Australian Bureau of Statistics projects that Australia has approximately 1 birth every 1 minute and 40 seconds. That equates to approximately 1 child every 10 minutes being born deaf or hard of hearing. Let's take a closer look. There are 2 ways of classifying hearing loss. Allen and Cowdery's The Exceptional Child states deafness refers to a loss so severe that the individual cannot process spoken language even with amplification devices. And hard of hearing refers to a lesser hearing loss. Both classifications have a monumental impact on a child's social, cognitive, and language development. Guralnick's article, Early Childhood Intervention, highlights the importance of early identification and intervention to a child's development. The loss of hearing can occur before speech, prelingual, or postlingual, after the acquisition of speech. The severity of a person's hearing loss is measured in decibels. That is, in particular, the amount of decibels the child is unable to hear. Hearing aids can improve hearing for children. However, they can only improve the volume. They cannot restore clarity. Let's take a look at what that means.
With our own child.
Children learn their language by overhearing it. They don't make a conscious effort. They overhear, they listen, they just absorb like auditory sponges. A deaf child is cut off from that. Now let me show you what children hear like who have some small amounts of residual hearing. I'll approximate that for you.
When the sunlight strikes raindrops in the air, they act like a prism from the rainbow. The rainbow is a division of white light into many beautiful colors.
So you hear the voice, and it's muffled and it's unclear. Well, children speak the way they hear. So first of all, it's hard to even recognize that there's a language going on, so they won't pick up language code. And if they do pick up some and they have to have something to say, when they have something to say, it will sound muffled. So if you'll excuse me for imitating deaf speech, when it comes out, it might sound something like this. This is the speech of somebody who hears very well in the low pitch, but not in the high pitch. So they speak like they hear, and their speech is very characteristic.
Some with hearing loss communicate using Auslan, which is the Australian Sign Language. It is a common misconception that sign language is translated English into signs. It is not true. It's its own unique language with its own rules and syntax. Every child is unique. Every situation is different. But according to research, some characteristics you may see in a child who is deaf or hard of hearing are: they may have a limited vocabulary, they may lack proper speech development, they may prefer visual learning activities, they may appear isolated, they may prefer not to participate in group oral activities, they may stare at a person's lips as they are talking, or cock their head to the side when they are listening. They can engage in either withdrawn or behaviour that is acting out. They may have a hearing aid or a cochlear implant, or possibly require assistive listening devices. We now have an understanding of the disability, but now let's explore how it affects a real-life person. Let's take a look into Thomas Trancham's story. Take it away, Amber.
Looking at Thomas, he is a seemingly happy child. However, as his parents soon realised, Thomas was unable to hear. From about the age of 1, Thomas's mother knew something was not quite right. It was discovered that Thomas only had high-frequency hearing. This meant that Thomas's hearing could be assisted with the use of hearing aids. This will help Thomas's inclusion in a classroom. However, Thomas's journey was only just beginning, as his parents provided audiologists, hearing aids and speech therapists to try and help Thomas hear and thus communicate. Thomas's parents had a choice when it came to Thomas's education. They could put him in a class that used signed language, or they could choose a class that used spoken language. Thomas's parents chose to put him in a class that used spoken language, as his parents did not want him to depend on sign language. This would mean Thomas would be in a mostly regular learning environment. Thomas's inability to hear strongly affects his capacity to communicate, as he has severe speech delays and a very limited range of vocabulary. This lack of communication was extremely frustrating and difficult for Thomas, as he struggled to express himself with words and would often yell or make undercodable sounds. We can witness this here.
Is that itsy bitsy spider? Are you doing the spider?
Thomas, the itsy bitsy spider.
Cross your hands.
It is clear that Thomas is trying to communicate, but his speech is not fully developed. Having Thomas in a regular classroom with this behaviour would mean that Thomas would need some extra one-on-one attention. Firstly, to try and understand Thomas, it is important that Thomas feels understood and that he is not made to feel isolated. And secondly, to help Thomas's speech and vocabulary. Face-to-face teaching is also important for a student like Thomas, as he can hear better this way. His teacher would need to be mindful of this when teaching. For example, after a whole class instruction is given, Thomas's teacher would need to repeat this instruction directly to Thomas. Due to Thomas's delay in speech, he definitely was isolated and did not participate much with his peers. Looking at this video, we can see that his parents worry he is going to live a life alone.
It's not yours. No. Give him it. Give it.
It was hard not to compare Thomas to other children his age. The world seemed so full of language. Did Thomas know how old he was? Or what a year is? Or what tomorrow means? We knew he was happy with us, but we didn't want him to grow up alone.
It is of utmost importance that for a student like Thomas, in a regular learning environment, every endeavour is made to help Thomas feel understood and included. This goes hand in hand in helping Thomas develop his needs at his own pace.
Thanks, Amber. There's no doubt about it that Thomas's life hasn't been easy. Let's look at the teacher's point of view. We're going to cross now to Thomas's teacher, Brett. He's going to talk about what he has implemented in the classroom.
Cool. Thank you, Laurie. I would like to begin by talking a little bit about Thomas in the school setting. Thomas is eager to interact and communicate with others, but often gets frustrated with himself, and when this is not achieved. He often expresses this by lashing out and hitting others. This has caused some of his peers to distance themselves from him, but they still want to engage with him in play. A developed IEP focusing on his social skills and vocabulary development has been implemented to assist Thomas greatly and is being productive to his learning. Planning a safe and inclusive classroom learning environment requires effective instructional approaches and knowledge of children's strengths and needs. Within the classroom setting, changes to instructions and the environment are vital to provide children like Thomas with better academic opportunities and needs rather than focusing on their differences in ability. The aim of instructional strategies is to teach the children specific strategies to focus on these in a large task context. This empowers children to learn what to learn, and strongly encourages the use of metacognitive skills and meta-linguistical strategies to enhance learning. Differentiation examples include context, the depth and span of information presented to Thomas, breaking it down to his level, and building him up by using vocabulary strategies he knows and developing upon these. Making sure that during instructional times, like when on the mat, that Thomas is at the front of the class to clearly hear the instructions. For the process, to use appropriate materials and instructions that are used to teach, for example, visual aids and strategies like ensuring Thomas is looking straight at you when speaking and repeating instructions to you and providing ample assisted practice time. For the end product, considering what the end product of learning will look like for him. Provide more time for completion if necessary with assistance and help of others as required, and by modelling the process as well. Visual aids can be provided to support learning and understanding and the communication of Thomas, but the visuals must be understandable for him and recognised and supported with language, as this is his parents' main focus for Thomas to communicate through oral language rather than using sign language. Process of activities can be broken into steps and provide predictability for him, especially in the early years, to support and encourage him. Make sure these supports are at his level of comprehension. The above instructional strategies are being implemented for Thomas and are providing better academic opportunities for him in the educational setting. Thank you, Laurie. Back to you in the studio.
Thanks, Brett, for an insight into the classroom. We're going to look at now Thomas's social development. Renee is going to explore that for us now.
There are a strong group of people around Thomas dedicated to helping him achieve his full potential. The first step for Thomas in building his social relationships at school will come from his class teacher. He needs to be able to explain to the class what his hearing loss means. It is important that the class understands the different needs he has and how best they can include him in their class. The school and community values and attitudes need to embrace a new way of communication that will support and develop Thomas's learning. Thomas is having speech therapy and has begun to learn some sign language. He is sometimes hard to understand, and this can lead to him becoming frustrated and annoyed. Even though students with impaired hearing are often able to play and interact with peers just as competently as other children, I believe Thomas needs some extra support to help him connect with the children around him. Studies have shown that children with more friends have fewer adjustment problems, have higher self-esteem, positive attitudes towards school, and better achievement. I am recommending that the classroom have many opportunities for cooperative learning activities. Thomas seems to enjoy interacting with the people around him, and I believe that he will flourish in group situations that model appropriate behaviour while allowing him to learn. Group work will also give him the opportunity to use language which will strengthen his peer relationships. By placing Thomas's desk in a position so that he is away from the doorway or corridor, he is not having to deal with the outside noise as well as trying to focus in class. This will allow him to hear the teacher and the students around him more clearly. His desk should also be set up in such a way that he is able to see most of his classmates and the teacher easily, so he can lip read if he wants to. An important aspect of Thomas's development in the classroom will be the teacher's attitude. He or she needs to be fully willing to include Thomas in all aspects of learning. By developing a culture of inclusion in the classroom, the teacher will ensure that Thomas and the other children are all reaching their full potential and are focused on learning. I would love to see Thomas's class or the whole school participate in sign language lessons. Then, as Thomas is developing his skills, his peers can also learn some signs, and this will strengthen their communication ability. We cannot forget the importance of outdoor education in developing Thomas's social skills. Some of his classroom learning could be done outside, with the students and teacher using hand signals instead of words for some popular group games. Many children with hearing difficulties excel in sports. Perhaps pairing Thomas with another child who likes the same sport could develop their friendship and interest. This can also extend Thomas's social circle by providing more children for him to connect with outside of the classroom. The Melbourne Declaration on the Educational Goals for Young Australians recognises that personal and social capability assists students to become successful learners, helping to improve their academic learning and enhancing their motivation to reach their full potential. Just because Thomas has a hearing impairment does not mean that he cannot develop effective social skills and build strong relationships with his peers. By working together with his parents, his class and the whole school, Thomas will be able to develop strong social connections.
Be happy.
Thanks, Renee. Those are some fantastic suggestions for improving Thomas's social opportunities. Now we're going to hear from Ellen, about the important people in Thomas's life and how important it is that the communication lines remain open.
Thanks, Laurie, and thanks for having me on the show tonight. I am Tommy's mum, and as Tommy's parents, we realised from an early stage that it was crucial to involve all the stakeholders. Tommy had from speech pathologists, audiologists, doctors, school teachers and OTs. We realised that to be able to provide effective and positive care for Tommy, that we really had to have open and effective communication with them. And this also allowed us to make well-informed decisions for Tommy's future. From the onset of Tommy being diagnosed, from when we first saw doctors all the way through his schooling, we really have found that the professionals have been very supportive. They have provided us with lots of extra information and really adapted to our family needs and provided wonderful care. Tommy's school teachers have used so many strategies over the time to be able to communicate effectively with us. They had a weekly communication book. They also took photos of Tommy, which were very special for us. They also used to sit down with us once a month to discuss Tommy's progress and also to let us be able to vent and to hear our concerns for Tommy. It was a great time of being able to plan for Tommy's future and to see what and was not working for Tommy. In 1994, Chandler discussed the notion that the more open and inclusive and communicative that all the stakeholders were, the higher chance of success for the individual. So with this in mind, we personally found the process of dealing with stakeholders very welcoming and very effective. It was a great experience all round. In 2012, the Tasmanian Department of Education, within the guidelines for individual support plans, discussed that IEPs promote the most collaborative and informative decision making for people with disabilities. It also reflected the process that we went through, that it was very inclusive and supportive, and IEP planning it was definitely reflective of the experience we've had. Stakeholders should be flexible and accommodating for all the clients' individual needs and also the families. All of Tommy's stakeholders were this, and in particular they provided alternative communication for us. It was quite often hard to get both kids in the car and get down to the office, so we used a lot of emails and phone calls, which worked perfectly for our family. As professionals, it was a necessity that they embraced our family's values and attitudes, as this underpinned a majority of our decisions towards Tommy, and it was really important that we were all on the same level and that they were on board with what we wanted for Tommy. One strategy was that they didn't just ring us to deliver bad news about Tommy's progress, but they also informed us every time that Tommy was making progress and that we could celebrate together. And this was really important, as sometimes the milestones were few and far between for Tommy. They provided us with extra resources such as Auslan groups, psychologists, parent groups, which were really important as we dealt with the process of having a child with a disability. It was really important that we never felt alone, and this definitely helped fill that gap. Overall, we were so grateful for the stakeholders and what they provided to us. They encouraged us, educated us, and equipped us to best deal with Tommy and best provide the best future for Tommy as well. Thanks, Laurie. Back to you.
There's no doubt about it. Being born deaf or hard of hearing is never easy. But with the right strategies in place, a child can achieve their full potential. Thanks everyone for watching Education Nightly News. Have a wonderful night.